All right, hello everybody, and welcome back. Today we are joined with Joey Cilano. And Joey, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Hi, thanks for the invite. Like you said, my name is Joey Cilano. I am a Embry-Riddle-Prescott campus graduate of 2017, specifically spring of 2017, because I know there is a difference with the guys that graduate in the winter. My major, I had a couple different majors when I was there. Like a lot of people, I came in as an engineer and left as something else. So I came in as a aerospace engineering, didn't like that, moved over to computer engineering, enjoyed that, but then flunked a bunch of classes. And so moved over to business administration, which I was actually the first graduate of the business administration degree without the aviation modifier on the front of that. That was my focus became after I was taking those business classes, my focus became to look for a job in a financial role, something like a financial analyst or planner or something along those lines. So I was able to get a job with Drake Cement, which is the cement plant that's up in Paulden, just about 35 minutes north of the campus. And I got that job actually through a contact with Professor Rick Gibson, who recommended me to the team there at Drake. And I worked in that job, or I worked for Drake for 6 years, taking on various roles, financial analyst, financial planner. And then in June of 2022, I got promoted to become the manager of financial planning and analysis after I finished my master's degree at ASU. And I was planning on being in that role for several years, but as life happens, emergencies come up and positions need to be filled, and the corporate structure has to continue rolling on. And so I just recently, about a month and a half ago, moved over to Drake Cement's sister company, Desert Ready Mix, which is located in Mesa, Arizona. And I am now the controller here at Desert Ready Mix. So pretty much I'm in charge of all of the accounting and reporting, accounts payable, payments, that sort of thing, treasury management here at Desert Ready Mix now. And while I was in school at Embry-Riddle, I was the president of the College Republicans Club, which I don't know if it's still active on campus there or not, but that was what I would say is probably my favorite memory there on campus was that in my senior year, we were able to host Chris Tonto Peranto, who was one of the survivors of the Benghazi attack in 2011 or 2012. I don't remember exactly when it was, but he was one of the survivors. And we were able to host him as a speaker there at the activity center. And we had about 900 people from the campus and around the community in Prescott there come out to see him talk. And we were actually able to raise, if I remember correctly, it was something like $13,000 or $14,000 for memorial scholarship in the name of Glenn Doherty, who was a Embry-Riddle alumni and was one of the Navy SEAL contractors that was there that night on September 11th in Benghazi, who was killed by the militants. So that was probably one of my favorite memories there. And then what I enjoy about my current role, I really enjoy the people that I work with. That's been the transition because it's been kind of a fast transition. And I've only been here for about a month. After working with the same people for 6 years, you have those connections and the camaraderie, and it's tough to leave that. But the team here at Desert Ready has been very welcoming and very open, and we've had a great time so far. It's been great getting to know.
Wow. It sounds like you've had a very eventful journey to where you are, but it sounds like it has been very rewarding.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. And now, what does a typical day look like at your current job?
Typical day at my current job. See, this is the fun thing because, if you had asked me this question a month ago when I was in my previous role, I would be able to like lay everything out for you because I was pretty well established. But only being in the role now for about a month, there's just so many things going on and trying to keep up with everything. I would say the biggest thing, we're in charge of making sure that all of the invoices and everything like that with our vendors are entered correctly. We pay our vendors on time and that sort of thing. So that's a big one every day. We have, invoices that we have to enter. My accounts payable team processes more than 200 invoices per day, I think is the number that they told me, which is a lot. Yeah. So a lot of that sort of thing. And There's a lot of back and forth communication of people saying, hey, what account do we put this into? Hey, is this vendor approved? This sort of thing. And then on top of that, I'm also responsible for making sure that the team is taken care of. Nobody's overworked, nobody's underworked, making sure that everybody's comfortable. And then, of course, as is the case in any corporate structure, you have the reporting to your ownership group or your parent company or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of requests coming in from the ownership group, making sure that they're getting the bang for their buck and making sure that their investment is being handled properly. So that I would say that's probably like very broad strokes, the day to day.
Okay. And was your other job kind of similar to what you're doing now, or are there a little bit of overlaps?
Well, there are some overlaps. The big thing that I was doing as manager of financial planning and analysis was like the budgeting and forecasting. So we would take all of the work that the accounting team did and all of the information that our operations and production team did, and we try and forecast out what would be happening over the next 3 months, 12 months, 10 years, those long-term forecasts, so that the executives of the company could make good long-term decisions and, it make pivots. The middle managers could make pivots on things that, if certain things were not hitting their targets, they could say, okay, well, maybe we need to try such and such instead of this other thing that we were trying. So that was really the big focus for me at my previous role. So it was a lot more, you could call it theoretical or conceptual, whereas this new role is very practical. There's a lot of, very practical hands in the dirt, so to speak, making sure that everything is functioning the way that it's supposed to go.
Right. And would you say you had more writing to do at your other job or at your current job?
So I would look at it in two ways. There was a lot more formal writing at my previous job, but there's a lot more informal writing at my current job because it's, a lot of companies, and I'm sure at Embry-Riddle you guys use some sort of instant messaging application now. And so we're using Microsoft Teams. And so there's a lot of communication that way. And so some of it is just basic like text, like, do such and such. And then someone says, oh, I forgot to do such and such. LOL, which you wouldn't really see in like an email or a memo. But there is still a lot of that memo writing, making sure that something, especially if I have to ask for direction from my superior, you write an email that is going to be very concise because these people are very busy. Obviously, they have a lot of work to do. I report directly to the CFO. But on the other hand, you want to make sure that they're getting 100% of the information. So you don't want to leave anything out, but you also don't want to write a book that they're not going to read. So it's kind of a fun mix there because it takes a little bit of practice to get the idea of what information needs to be included and what information doesn't. And then also cleaning up your writing style so that you're not using superfluous words, such as the word superfluous. Just kidding. But and making sure that the point is coming across. And the other thing that I have a fun time with as well is Drake Cement is owned by a company based out of Lima, Peru. And so a lot of my superiors, English is their second language. And so it becomes a little bit of a challenge, that language barrier, where you have to make sure that you're, again, being very clear, very concise, but you're also using language that is understandable and sometimes following up with like a face-to-face to make sure that everything is coming across correctly, just because of that translation barrier.
Oh, yeah, that sounds very challenging.
Yeah, it's a good challenge though. I think that diversity of viewpoint really strengthens the company overall because we get a lot of different perspectives of people that, maybe grew up outside of the United States or grew up inside of the United States, but their families or they lived in a different country or something like that. So we really embrace the challenge of taking on that language barrier, and we've been in Drake Cement and Desert Ready Mix and across the whole group, we've been very successful.
That's awesome. So have you noticed any big differences between writing you did at Embry-Riddle and writing you're doing currently?
That's a good question. I got to think back a little bit. When I took my writing classes at Embry-Riddle, my focus was, I think I took technical report writing, Professor Mangum, and that was more geared towards like the engineering side of things. And so we learned very practical ways to make our writing very concise and clear. Things like not using the word utilize when you can use the word use. because they mean the same thing and utilize most of the time just sounds pretentious. Little things like that. That actually helped so much because it taught me how to make sure that my wording is precise and clear, and I'm not, because I like hearing myself talk, but that's not great for memo writing. You want to get down to brass tacks and not waste anybody's time, especially when these people are making, $150 an hour. Time literally is money.